Hello and welcome to the video version of my journal. I'm Steffanie Rivers. Welcome to the conversation. Welcome to my simulcast. You're watching the video version of my journal, and I'm simulcasting on YouTube and Facebook Live, LinkedIn, and Twitter. So we want to welcome you. If this is your first time joining, welcome to the conversation. I'm sure you're going to hear something that you want to share. And of course, you would have liked it, and then you will subscribe. So thanks for coming to the conversation. If you are returning to the conversation, we want to welcome you back. So tonight we're going to talk about those parents of the boy who shot and killed 4 of his schoolmates in Michigan last week. They are the worst kind of parents. They went on the run. They got caught trying to avoid capture. They got arrested. And get this, they got bail. A bail that could allow them to get out of jail if they come up with the money, that is, to pay for it. And if anybody has proven themselves to be flight risks, it's these people. They evaded the law, and then they went on the lam, and they still get the benefit of white privileges. Let's talk about it. Hi, I'm Steffanie Rivers, and I want justice for Breonna Taylor because the police officers involved showed reckless disregard for her life and the lives of her neighbors. Her. So you're saying she essentially died on the floor right there?
Second that she got shot, she was.
Family, did the city of Birmingham, did anybody say, did the church, did anybody say there's more to
Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Steffanie Rivers, and you're watching my video version of my journal. Today, we are talking about James and Jennifer Crumbley. They are the parents of the most recent schoolhouse shooter killer, Ethan Crumbley. Here is a picture of James and Jennifer Crumbley after they got caught. After they fled their city of Michigan on their way to whoever, God knows where they were on their way to. That's James and Jennifer Crumbley. Now, these are the parents of Ethan Crumbley, and I'll show you his picture momentarily. These are the same people who purchased a gun for their son. These are the same people who didn't secure that gun as it dictates law, or at least common sense dictates that you should secure the gun. These are the same people who either allowed their 15-year-old son to take the gun to school, and they didn't alert school administrators who expressed well-placed concerns about their son's mental state of mind before the shootings occurred last week. Or these parents just didn't care enough to be concerned if their son had a gun in his book bag. And D.L. Hughley posted something on Twitter, and he said it best. He said, if Karens were more concerned about checking their children's book bags for guns than they are concerned about checking Black people's IDs about nothing that has anything to do with their business, then there would be less school shootings. And I agree. I'm going to show you Ethan Crumbley's picture. This is Ethan Crumbley. He's the latest schoolhouse shooter, and he killed 4 people. He wounded 7 people. in with a gun that his father bought for him that they didn't bother to secure, or they knew he took it to school. Either way, they are piss poor parents, as the term my mother used to say, piss poor. These are the same people who abandoned their son to police custody. Let me go ahead and remove Ethan's picture. These are the same people who abandoned their son while he was in police custody to face charges as an adult of terrorism and of murder of 4 high school students, and again, shooting 7 people at his Oxford High School in Michigan. And because they were going to be charged with 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter for their negligence in parenting this child and their lack of alerting school officials to the fact that there might be a gun in their son's book bag and on school property that could have and most likely would have saved lives, they chose to become fugitives from the law. These people, the judge granted bail to. Now, some people might say, well, what's the big deal about setting bail? Because the bail is $500,000 each, which means, in my understanding, that they have to come up with 10%, which would be $50,000 each. That's $100,000 together, which most people would consider to be next to impossible to come up with that type of money. So what is there to be upset about, you might ask? Well, here's why I'm calling foul on this play. These parents, they skipped town. Before they left, authorities found out that they were able to get $4,000 in cash from ATMs around the area. So that means, now last time, I don't go to the bank like that to get out thousands of dollars out of the ATM. But here's what I do know. You can't get but a few $100s, let's say 1,000 to be liberal. Let's say you can get $1,000 a day from your account. Well, then that means these people had either credit cards that they got money off of, and or they had accounts that they got money off of, and enough so that they could come up with $4,000 in one day. So that says to me that if they're able to put their hands on $4,000 in one day, there's no telling what they might be able to come up with as far as raising $100,000 to get bail, especially when you have people out here in these streets who found it necessary and they found it their duty to help Kyle Rittenhouse raise $2 million for his defense when he killed 2 people and wounded a third and shot at another one that ran away. And they helped him raise $2 million through social media platforms. So you mean to tell me you think it is next to impossible for these parents to come up with $100,000, whether they get it on their own or the streets get it for them? I think that's why I'm upset about it, because the Crumleys have proven themselves to be flight risks. They was running from the law. They got caught while they was running. So why would a judge grant them bail? I don't know. Well, here's what's up. Who's this judge? Her name is District Judge Julie A. Nicholson. And I'm going to share her information with you. Now, this is the page for Julie A. Nicholson. She was, or either still is, the chief judge in the 52nd District of Michigan. And so she found it okay and necessary to grant bail to some people who already were flight risks. And that is just not acceptable, especially in the light of so many people, who don't get a bail, and they have done not even a percentage of what these people have done and what these people could have prevented from happening, and they don't get bail. So if you live in the Rockford, Michigan area, the 52nd District Court area of Michigan, there's the phone number on there. And if it's too small for you to see, I'm gonna read it for you. And I want you, if you know anyone in this area of Michigan, or you live in this area of Michigan, I want you to call the 52nd District. It's area code 248-853-5553. Go ahead and call them and let them know it's Rochester Hills, Michigan. Let them know that you do not agree with the decision that Judge Nicholson made by granting bail to some fugitives. Okay, it's another instance of white privilege that we need, that in the criminal justice system, even criminals, even people who run from the law, even piss poor parents, even parents who could have prevented the murder of 4 people and the wounding of 7 others, still get bail. That's just egregious. It's just egregious. That's my word. It's egregious. So if you know anybody who lives in that area, go ahead and give Judge Julie Nicholson a phone call and let her know that you don't like what she did and that you don't want it to happen again. And we'll be right back after these messages.
Recent events got you thinking about tightening up your gun skills? Do you have a gun but never took it to the gun range? Join the club. No, really. The Henry Johnson Gun Club of Dallas is hosting the first annual Precision Games Pistol and Rifle Competition, January 16th in Ferris, Texas. Register to win. Win to receive prizes and bragging rights. Go to the Henry Johnson Gun Club Facebook page for more info. Get ready, stay ready.
Hello and welcome back to the video version of my journal. I'm Steffanie Rivers. If you haven't already, please like, share, subscribe, so that when I post new videos, you will be the first to know, mostly on Sundays around this time. Today, we're talking about the inequity in the criminal justice system that shows where people like Jennifer and James Crumbley, the parents of schoolhouse shooter Ethan Crumbley, can get granted bail when there's tens of thousands of Black and brown people in America who don't get bail and in fact die in jail because they didn't get bail or they could not afford to pay the bail that they got. But these people running from the law got bail. It just makes no sense. And so here's the other reason. The second reason that I want to call foul on this play is because there, like I just said, Black and brown people all over, but specifically it's been raised for years now, the issue going on in New York City and Rikers Island. There are people in Rikers Island that the people who are in Rikers Island, they are there because that's kind of like the New York City's detention center. When you either don't get bail or you can't pay your bail, they send you there to wait for your trial date. And so apparently in New York State, you can be forced to pay a bail even though you are charged with a misdemeanor. So a misdemeanor could be something like you stole some groceries from the grocery store that was under $300 or something like that. Or you got gas and then drove off without paying and then they caught you, something like that. So there are people who end up at Rikers who are charged with murder or charged with stealing gas, charged with stealing groceries, anything from a felony offense on down to a minor offense. And if you can't make your bail because they put it so high that you can't afford it and they won't allow you to leave, you just have to stay at Rikers. Or if you don't get a bail, and you just have to stay at Rikers. So whether it's a felony or it's a misdemeanor, because people in New York who are charged with misdemeanor crimes, nonviolent crimes, are oftentimes have bail set against them that they cannot pay, and they are detained at Rikers. And so far, on any given day, there are 9,000 people a day that go to Rikers, that are in Rikers, and 75% of those people are either their bail is so high that they can't pay it, or they didn't get bail. I think I'm saying that right. 75% of the people at Rikers, they can't afford their bail. So if it's 9,000 a day at Rikers and 75% of them get bail and they could get out if they could afford the bail, that's around 6,500. So let's say 7,000 of those 9,000 people don't even have to be there. But that's how the system works against Black people in America and brown people in America. They put you in a position where you're paying the most for doing the least. Meanwhile, people like James and Jennifer Crumbley, who did the most, they get provisions that are for the least. Yeah. And that is the way the criminal justice system discriminates against people. And so people in New York, if you know anybody in New York state, all over the state, or if you are seeing this and you live in New York, you need to call your state legislators, the ones that are getting together in Albany and making up these laws, and tell them to abolish the bail system in New York that mandates that people who are charged with nonviolent offenses, that people who are charged with misdemeanor offenses have to be subjected to the bail system. Because if you remove that, then that removes 75% of the people who go to jail. They could go home. They could be helping to prepare their defense instead of sitting in jail being subjected to assault, being subjected to drugs, being subjected to all kinds of things, health compromises. In fact, in 2021, so far, 14 people have died in Rikers that didn't really have to be there. They were there because they couldn't afford to pay their bail. So let's stop this from happening. In fact, there's a electronic billboard in Times Square that speaks to the district attorneys in that area, telling them to stop sentencing people, stop putting bail on nonviolent offenders, stop putting bail on people who commit misdemeanor crimes, and they end up going to Rikers Island subjected to hardened criminals, and the worst things happen. In fact, I also read that most recently there was a detainee in Rikers Island that got into a fight with another detainee, and one of them stabbed the other one in the eye. And because of the poor conditions there, because there's not enough, there are not enough security guards, there's not enough staff to help on the ward, let's call it, in the area where the fight broke out and the person got stabbed in the eye. There was nobody around to stop the fight. There was nobody around to help this guy get to the infirmary. He got to the infirmary out of the goodness and the help from the other detainees, who was like, this is ridiculous. Where's the people supposed to be helping? Nobody was there. They had to take this guy who could not see, was blinded by blood, probably was going into shock. You just got stabbed in the eye. You don't know what's going on. And they had to help him get to the infirmary because there were no security guards around. There was nobody around. Y'all, this is it's getting crazy and crazy out here. And most of this is happening to African Americans, Black people in America, brown people in America. And we cannot sit by and not say anything about it, because I could be the most law-abiding citizen, but my cousin might be in jail, my brother, my sister, my mother. It could be your grandmama. It could be somebody. People get caught up in stuff due to no fault of their own. And it seemed like if you in New York and you can't pay the bail and you ass out, you got to go to jail and that could be months. And if they got 9,000 people a day going to jail in New York, it's going to be some time before they get to your trial. Okay. It's not going to be no, next month, which is long enough. It might be years. And so you have people who one day leave the house thinking they're coming back at the end of the day, and they don't come back for years, if at all. 14 people have died in custody at Rikers Island due to negligence of the staff and the overall situation and the health and just the sanitation, all of that. And so if you know anybody in New York or you live in New York, you need to talk to your state legislators in Albany. And if you know, if you can write a letter, if you can go on your social media and do posts every day, then you can write your Congress people. You can write the district attorney in your area and let them know that you want them to stop sentencing, putting bail on people who have nonviolent suspects. And that's what we need to do. Meanwhile, back in Michigan, the Crumleys, who are piss poor parents who ignore school officials, the father bought his mentally unstable son a weapon and didn't secure it and didn't restrict him, and then let him walk out the house with it, or didn't check his book bag, or you went to the meeting. That's what they were talking about. They said parents were at the school earlier that day of the shooting, had a meeting with the principal about some stuff. What was that stuff? That stuff was that a teacher saw their son, Ethan, trying to order bullets, ammunition on his phone, through his phone, and saw a note that Ethan had written about how he was feeling like he needed help and he had mental issues. And she snapped a picture of it. And when they showed it to the parents at the meeting, Ethan had enough sense to change the note, because he knew she had taken a picture. The teacher changed the note, but she took the picture. He had changed it. The picture that she took said something totally different than what Ethan brought to the table, saying, no, this was the note. He had enough sense to know that. You mean to tell me he didn't have enough sense to know he shouldn't be running through the school hallway shooting people? They said, a lot of stuff. I don't want to get into the details of that, but the bottom line is, I'm just seeing some emergency lights outside. But the bottom line is that his parents and a lot of people in the criminal justice system get more consideration as felony suspects than people who are non-felony suspects who are African Americans and other people of color. And so we cannot have that. And that's why I'm upset about this. So here's what I want you to do. Your call to action is, if you know anybody in New York, you need to be making some phone calls about that situation at Rikers Island and the fact that they allow bail to be put on misdemeanor suspects. And if you live in Michigan, you need to be trying to contact Honorable Julie Nicholson of the 52nd District, who allowed James and Jennifer Crumbley to get bail, because she shouldn't have given them bail. They should be a no bail situation right next to their no bail son, the killer. That's what they need to do. Because as like I said, out here in these streets, people gonna come up with the money to give them the money so they can get bail and be home for Christmas. Meanwhile, you got people, black and brown people all over the country who can't afford their bail and are gonna miss, even though they might be innocent. And we know there's tons of innocent people in prison today because they didn't have the money to put together the type of defense that is supposed to be equal and fair. But we really know if you can't pay for your defense, a lot of times you're not going to get the best defense. So that's what we need to do. And that's what I want you to do. So to find out more about the things that I care about, I want you to go to the written version of my journal. That's at eurweb.com. Thank you. I'm trying to go to just to officially put that in. I don't even think I did that the whole time, just in case you know. I just want you to know what we're talking about. Crumley fugitives granted bail. So again, to find out more about the things that I care about, go to the written version of my journal. That's at eurweb.com. Thanks and have a super day.